My name is Brandon, and I'm currently a senior in high school. It's really strange how certain moments burn themselves into your brain like they happened yesterday. For me, that day was 2 years ago, and even now I can still picture every second of it clearly as day. It was supposed to be just another boring afternoon at school, right before the final bell of the year. Everyone was dragging themselves to their last period, and I remember standing there in the hallway thinking, do I really need to sit through another miserable history class? I wasn't good at the subject. I didn't care for the teacher either. And to be honest, I was already checked out for summer break. So instead of showing up, I decided to disappear. There was this bathroom tucked all the way back in the school. No one really ever used it. And that's where I went. I figured I could kill the rest of the day in peace, hiding out in the last stall with my phone and some dumb game to pass the time. I'd been sitting there for maybe 15 minutes when the intercom suddenly blasted through the speakers and scared the hell out of me. It was the principal announcing a lockdown. At first, I didn't think anything of it. We had so many lockdown drills that it felt routine. I figured I'd just sit tight and wait for it to end. Then, all of a sudden, the lights went out. The air conditioner stopped too, which meant the power to the school was completely gone. The whole bathroom went dark, and I just sat there in silence trying to figure out if this was part of the drill. That's when I started getting nervous. I pulled out my phone, turned the brightness way down, and texted my friend asking what was going on. He replied almost right away, saying it was a real lockdown and that everyone was wondering where I was. That's when I realized how bad of a decision it was to hide there. I thought about trying to find a better place to hide, but I wasn't about to run into the hallway during an actual lockdown. So I decided to stay put. I turned my phone off and tried to listen for anything going on outside. After about a minute or two, I heard footsteps echoing down the hall. They got closer and closer until the bathroom door opened. I froze. Whoever it was walked in slowly and went into the stall right next to mine. I could hear the latch click. For a while, it was just silence. I couldn't tell if it was another student hiding or someone else entirely. My heart was pounding so hard that I was scared they'd hear it. Eventually, I whispered something like asking who was there. The person said that they were hiding too after they heard the lockdown announcement. The voice sounded about my age, so I tried to convince myself it was just another kid like me. We both sat there quietly for what felt like forever. I didn't hear any movement, just the faint sound of police sirens somewhere outside. After about 15 or 20 minutes, which felt like an hour, the intercom came back on, saying the lockdown was over and that everyone should calmly exit through the front doors where the police were waiting. I opened the stall door, but the person next to me didn't. I asked if they were coming, and they said they'd be out in a minute. I thought it was strange, but I didn't question it. I just left and started walking towards the front of the school. My phone buzzed again. It was my friend texting me, saying the lockdown was because a student from another school had tried to rob a nearby gas station with a knife. Apparently, the guy stabbed a couple of people and then ran onto our campus to hide. He said the cops were still looking for him and that they believed he was somewhere in the back of the school. I don't think I've ever moved faster in my life. I started running down the hallway towards the exit until I finally made it outside, where police were already gathering everyone outside. I told one of the officers what happened, and how someone had been in the stall next to me during the lockdown and never came out. They went in to check it out, but when they came back, they said the stall was empty. The window in the back of the bathroom was shattered, and whoever was in there had escaped through it. For the next 2 days, everyone at school kept asking me about it. I didn't really know what to say. As far as I know, they never caught the guy. It still messes with my head sometimes, knowing that I was sitting just a few feet away from the person everyone else was trying to hide from. This happened during my first year as a teacher. I had just started working at a public elementary school not too far from where I grew up. It was only September, so I was still figuring things out and trying to get comfortable in the classroom. I taught first grade, about 20 kids in total. And even though I loved it, it could be pretty overwhelming at times. The kids were full of energy, and I was still getting used to how chaotic things could get when you're responsible for that many 6-year-olds at once. That day started off completely normal. We were going over a simple spelling worksheet, and the kids were actually behaving better than usual. I remember thinking it was going to be one of those rare, calm days. I could not have been more wrong. About halfway through the worksheet, the intercom came on, and the principal's voice filled the room. It was calm at first, but I could tell something was off in his tone. He announced a lockdown and told everyone to follow procedure. Being pretty new, I had no idea if this was just a drill or something serious. But by the tone of his voice, I felt like it was something serious. Nobody had told me when the practice ones were supposed to happen, so I just assumed it was better to play it safe. I locked the classroom door, turned off the lights, and had the kids sit on the floor against the wall farthest from the door. They didn't really understand what was happening, but they followed along, whispering and giggling quietly at first. For a while, everyone stayed quiet. About 5 minutes maybe passed, without a sound from the hallway, and I started to think it was just a drill after all. But then I heard something. It was a faint banging somewhere down the hall. At first, I thought it might have been just a custodian or maybe another teacher checking doors. But then it happened again, and it was louder this time, like someone was hitting the doors hard. That's when I felt my stomach drop. I could hear doors slamming open and shut further down the hallway. Every sound made my heart race faster. One of my students then started crying. Not loud at first, but enough that the noise carried through the room. I tried to calm them down as best as I could, whispering for them to take deep breaths, but it wasn't working, and within seconds, a few more kids were crying too. That's when everything outside went silent. I could audibly hear slow footsteps coming down the hallway, stopping every few seconds, like someone was checking each classroom. Then the steps just stopped, right outside our door. It stayed quiet for a minute. I remember holding my breath, hoping whoever was out there would just keep walking. But then I heard a man's voice say something like, "I think there are kids in this one." That's when I knew it was real. A few more footsteps ran up, and suddenly they started trying to break the door open. The kids started to scream, and all I could do was whisper for them to stay down and cover their ears. I felt completely helpless. I had no idea what to do besides pray that someone would get there before the door gave in. Then, out of nowhere, 2 gunshots echoed through the hallway. The sound was deafening. Right after the gunshots, everything went silent again. I didn't know if the police had fired or if it was the people outside the door. A few of the kids were shaking and holding their ears, and I was trying my best to keep them calm even though I was terrified myself. A few minutes later, I heard shouting in the hallway, voices telling everyone to stay down, followed by the sound of footsteps moving quickly past our room. Eventually, the principal's voice came over the intercom again, saying the lockdown was over and that the building was secure. The police came to our door and told us it was safe to unlock it. When I stepped out into the hall, I saw officers everywhere. They said the intruders were 3 high school students who had somehow gotten inside. Apparently, they didn't give much of a reason for doing it. One of them said it was supposed to be a bet, but I don't believe that. No one goes that far for a bet. Luckily, nobody got hurt. The gunshots had been fired by police, and they were just warning shots into the floor to scare the intruders off. Even so, it didn't make it any less horrifying in the moment, especially with the state of the country the last few years. It's been a couple of years since that happened, and I still teach in the same classroom. You can still see the marks from those bullets in the hallway. Every time I walk past them, I think about how close that day came to being something much worse. This happened when I was in middle school. I was in 7th grade, and it was one of those long winter days when everyone just wanted to go home. It was right after lunch, and I remember my class had just started a group project when the intercom came on. It wasn't the usual cheerful tone from the principal. It was short, urgent, and almost completely flat. The principal said that there was a lockdown and that all teachers should secure their rooms immediately. Our teacher didn't even hesitate. She went straight to the door, locked it, turned off the lights, and told everyone to move to the back corner of the room. Nobody was laughing or whispering like we usually did during drills. Everyone somehow knew right away that this wasn't practice. We all crouched behind our desks near the back wall. The room was freezing because the heating system shut off with the power. The only sound was the occasional creak of someone's shoe on the tile, or a quiet sniffle from one of the kids nearby. After maybe about 10 minutes, we heard footsteps in the hallway. They weren't running, but they were slow, like someone was walking deliberately, stopping every few steps. And then there was this sound, like someone trying to turn the doorknob. It turned once, twice, and then stopped. Nobody breathed. It felt like everyone was holding their breath, including me. I remember staring at the small gap under the door, terrified that I'd see someone's shoes. Then, whoever it was started tapping on the door. 3 slow taps, followed by silence. Our teacher whispered for everyone to stay quiet, but You could see her hands shaking. The tapping happened again, this time harder, then nothing. We stayed that way for what felt like forever, but it was probably just another 10 minutes. Then, over the intercom, we heard a police officer's voice saying they were sweeping the halls and that no one should leave their room until they were escorted out. Eventually, an officer came to our door and told us it was safe. When we stepped into the hallway, there were police everywhere. Later, we found out that a man had entered the building through the side door that hadn't fully latched shut after lunch. Nobody knew who he was. He didn't even have any connection to the school. They said he never actually had a weapon, but he refused to leave when confronted and started acting erratically. He was arrested outside one of the classrooms a few doors down from ours. Even now, years later, I still get anxious whenever I hear that lockdown announcement sound in videos or drills. It's one of those things that stays with you. The silence, the waiting, and the sound of someone testing the doorknob when you're on the other side of it.